gathered here to honor and to celebrate the life of Christopher G. Tappan. Chris was young, just 50 years old, looking forward to so much. And then April 8th, 2025, Chris took his last breath here, and he opened his eyes up in heaven.
But I first met Chris in the hallways of Southside Middle School in Long Island, right after a class called Study Hall. When we were on the stage at Southside High School doing the lighting, I started bragging about getting ready to join the fire department. And Chris was like, oh, tell me more. And then I told him about how cool it is to go into like a burning building during training and all this other stuff. And Chris was like, so is there anything else you can do? Like be a EMT or something? You know, see, Chris was afraid of fire and I was afraid of blood. So we were like a great friendship. So he joined the rescue company. Chris was studious. He studied so hard to be an EMT. And he was so good at that, and then became a paramedic. And you never realize the value of having a friend that can start an IV until you've spent too much time out the night before together.
These last 7 months, he never complained. We were in the hospital 6 times, I think. And the man was constantly reassuring me. He was our steady. He never let us miss church. He made sure that we made sound decisions as a family.
I met Chris about 20 years ago after he graduated the State Police Academy and was assigned to Bel Air Barracks. I remember Chris to always be a calm and compassionate person, and he was always happy to help others. For several years, we worked a part-time security job together at an auto auction in Baltimore, and I knew Chris to be a very reliable person, and he got along with everyone. And unfortunately, with Chris's passing, I've had several of the people that knew Chris from then call and reach out to me and express their sorrow in his passing. And they expressed that how good of a guy he was, and they were fortunate to know him.
I've had the opportunity and the privilege to work with Chris pretty much all of his career. And when I first met Chris, he had walked in the door at Trooper 1 to do a ride along with me back in 2003. And at that time, Chris was working up in New York, and he was trying to decide if he wanted to move to Maryland and to join Maryland's Finest. Throughout his application process, he did several ride-alongs with me before getting his final offer to join the Maryland State Police Academy. And then after his time in the academy and his time at the Bel Air Barracks, he then transferred into Aviation Command. Throughout his career, he received recognition a number of times for the care that he provided. He was always conscientious about providing good care, and he touched so many lives over the years.
He forgave easy and fast. And I recognized it because that's not a strong suit of mine. You're faced at the end. I'm just saying, I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry for that. Please forgive me. And in my tear-stained eyes, he wouldn't even let me finish. He said, all I know is that I have been married to the most beautiful woman for 20 years. He wouldn't even let me finish. He didn't even want to hear the things I felt sorrow for.
Chris was born February 19th, 1975. He grew up in Rockville Centre, Long Island, New York. And he was raised with a deep sense of responsibility that lasted the rest of his life. When he lived in New York, he served in several first responder roles. He was at Ground Zero after the tragedy of 9/11. Chris moved to Maryland to work for Maryland State Police in 2004. And as a rookie trooper, he had a field trainer named Rick Carroll. And Jen was telling me how Rick had a Bible in his car. And Rick started to challenge him to think about the challenge that would come as being a trooper. And during that season in his life, he really decided to live for Jesus.
You know, one time I received a late night phone call from Chris. I had already went to bed, and I picked up the phone, and it was Chris. And I thought, something's going on for him to call me this late. And it was him on the other phone. I answered it, and he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "Not much." And he said, "You want to go get a beer at Independent Brewery?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. No problem. Let's go. I'll meet you there." And hung up, and I looked at my wife, and I said, "Something's going on." Because Chris just doesn't call me late at night asking to have a beer. And so I jumped out of bed thinking I was going to go rescue Chris. I was going to be there to help him, as a friend should. And I met him there, and we drank a beer or two and sat around for about an hour and a half and talked. And the whole time I was waiting for it. I'm like, what's he need? What happened? What can I do for him? You know, because I just want to be a good friend. And it never came. So I think that whatever was going on, he just needed a friend.
And I'm looking over here at the state police, and I feel like I have to share a memory with you, because Chris almost didn't make it through the academy. I was a Baltimore County police officer working in Essex, and I was on the night shift that time. And Chris calls me in the middle of the day, and Chris goes, "George, whatever you do, do not hang up." I'm like, "Chris, what's going on?" And Jen, this is going to prove his love for you. So Chris says, "I am standing in the middle of the State Police Academy. My entire class is doing push-ups while they watch me talk to you on the phone. And I have a very strong message for you. The Maryland State Police is the finest police agency in the entire state of Maryland, in the United States, and Baltimore County has nothing. Nothing." And I'm like, "Chris, we have a better contract." And Chris goes, "George, not now." He goes, "They are listening." And I said, "Chris, what's going on?" He's like, "What happened?" Well, he couldn't tell us until he finally got a weekend to come home. But what he did was, he was so in love with Jen that he snuck his cell phone into the bunks and got caught with it. And he paid the price while everybody else did the push-ups.
Even up until a week worshiping in our living room, he was praising the Lord, saying, "Please, Lord, let me walk Norah down the aisle. Just give me a few more years."
His family brought him so much joy, and I remember how excited he was when each of you were born. And over the last few months, while Chris dealt with the cancer diagnosis, I was so impressed at how positive he stayed. He even came to a training one day just so he could stay up on things. He never wavered in his faith. And sadly, this disease continued to spread through his body over this last 7 months, and it was heartbreaking to see his health decline.
2007, Chris moved to aviation and spent the rest of his career there. He served as a flight paramedic. And in that role, as you can imagine, he saw many difficult things as he was involved in critical, life-saving missions.
On the evening that Chris passed from this life to his eternal home in heaven, I was able to spend about an hour and a half with him. And although he wasn't conscious, I was able to share some stories with Jen about Chris and what his friendship meant to us, to everyone in aviation. Just 2 months ago, when my dad died unexpectedly, Chris, in his feeble state, was adamant he wanted to be there to support me. He was being pushed in a wheelchair. He could barely stand. But he stood right up and he hugged me tight. And I said, "Chris, what are you doing here?" And he says, "We've been friends for 20 years. There's no way I'm missing this."
He described himself as a vessel, as a servant, someone designed to serve God by helping others.
And one piece of advice that I give as an instructor is be selfish. Take the time to heal yourself so that you can heal others. Because without taking care of your vessel like Chris was, and knowing that God does his work through the hands of man, there's no other way to do it. So with that, to Chris, I say, God bless. I know you're up there. Your faith is strong. We love you. We will honor you. We will take care of your family. And this is a marathon. We're in it for the long haul, and we'll be there by your side.
Walking alongside your spouse as they journey home on a journey like we had, And knowing that I was able to stand by his side every moment of that journey that I could. I couldn't have done it without all of you, and I know he would want to thank you from the bottom of his heart. From the bottom of his heart, he said to me, if my death results in one person coming to the Lord, then it is worth it. That was who he was. And I will continue to point our children towards the Lord because that was his only wish. Thank you so much.
What was Chris to me? He was a friend, a brother, a Christian, a mentor, a devoted husband to Jen, and a loving father to Everett, Christian, and Noah. Jen, we're here for you and your family. And just like that late night phone call from Chris, doesn't matter what time it is, we're gonna answer. And we're gonna be there for you. So Chris, it's not goodbye. He'll always be with us and live through us.
We have to continue on in aviation, Trooper 1, and throughout the command, but I assure you he will not be forgotten. We will cherish the memories, the medevacs that we flew together, and will not forget his friendship. Thank you for allowing Chris to be a part of our lives in MSP Aviation and at Trooper 1.
All units stay by for priority traffic. Minimum please prepare for our final call. Syscom to Sergeant Christopher Tappan. Syscom to Sergeant Christopher Tappan. This is the final call for Sergeant Christopher Tappan. Sergeant Tappan, thank you for your dedicated service to our community. You supported your fellow troopers and always had a smile on your face. You fought valiantly, and we are deeply saddened by your passing, but now it is time for you to rest. You'll be dearly missed, but we know you will watch over your loving family, as well as your brothers and sisters in law enforcement. Sergeant Tappan, may you rest in peace. Your spirit lives on in your family, and we will remember you always. Sergeant Tappan, Battalion 4731, you are now clear of duty. Thank you for your service. Rest in peace, brother. We've got it from here. Syscom clear at 13. Syscom clear at 1345.
Yeah. Ready then.
Thank you.